Alrighty, welcome back to Death by Dragons for another battle report. Forgive my slightly nasal voice. I have a cold. I'm dying, but don't worry about me. I'll be fine. I'll be fine. I'll be fine. So this is an interesting one. So it is Abyssals versus Trident Realm. So my good friend Matt, who I play pretty much every day on Universal Battle via email. He lives down in that there London, and I was travelling down to London for work, and I said, hey, let's meet up and slightly weirdly play face to face. Never met the guy, and he very kindly offered to lug not one but two armies across London through work. But the armies that he has, obviously he plays Trident Realm, so he has that, and he had an Abyssals army that I think was a Warhammer army. It's not multi-based. But beautifully painted as always. So he very kindly brought that along. I knocked up a list in about 10 minutes, frankly. Never played Abyssals before, but I thought it might be a bit of fun. And so yeah, we cracked on in the Dark Sphere mega store in that there Shepherd's Bush, which is huge. It's where Mantic Franticon was run. But I think we were practically the only people in there. There was a D&D group or something at the same time. But yeah, so we had a go. And it was really fun. So this is that battle report. So this is my Abyssals list. I started with a horde of lower Abyssals to be a bit of a tar pit. I should mention that I was a little bit restricted by the models that he had. And I didn't want to just kind of run his old list. So I came up with something myself. And this is how it came. So horde of lower Abyssals. A regiment of succubi with a real strength. To be a nice punchy unit. 2 hordes of Molochs and an archfiend with wings and lightning bolt, which formed the Great Arch Host, which I think gives 1 extra speed to the Molochs, makes them speed 6. So that's pretty nice. 2 regiments of Tortured Souls, an Efreet, which I gave weakness to, an Abyssal Temptress that I gave Bane Chant and Teleport to. So she can go with a Succubi, and she can also teleport that Efreet into the backfield to do some unpleasant fireballing. And last but not least, the Well of Souls, which is a great flying unit. Big fan of that. That was my Abyssals list for 2,000 points. It's quite a melee list, I'd say. Maybe a lot of the Abyssal lists previously have been quite shooty, but that's been kind of knackered, hasn't it, by the most recent changes. I didn't want to run Cronius because I just don't get it as a new unit, so I thought I'd try this and see how it went. So, on to the Trident Realm. So this is Matt's standard. I think it's his tournament list, pretty much. There or thereabouts. So 2 hordes of Gigas. And the King Crabs formation, giving them +1 speed, I want to say, an elite. Is it just a... Yeah, can't remember. I'll look it up in a minute. Where are we? Trident Realm. King Crabs. Thank you, Easy Army, for being so accessible, so I don't have to reach my book. Yeah, I'm absolutely right. +1 speed and elite. A regiment of Hidden Ones, who are the special Thule, with stealthy and thunderous charge. A normal regiment of Thule with a hammer of measured force. A regiment of Tidal Swarm. 2 Knuckers. Can never have enough Knuckers. Height 4 monsters, but damn, they're fast. How does a height 4 monster be stealthy? Anyway. A Coral Giant, Naiad Envoy with Banner of the Griffin, Teleport and Aura of Heroism, and the Siren and Ector combo that I hate. I hate both of those characters with equal measure. They are a pain in the ass. So, this is the board that we laid out. So we were kind of just grabbed some terrain from around. You see this little hill in the middle? That's the only hill they had. The only one! I assume they got some more in time for Franticon, which was the next week. But when we were there, that's the only hill. So this is the terrain. We had 2 height 4 forests. A height 2 hill. Very small. Oh, that's all at once there. So a height 0 piece of terrain. 2 height 4 pieces of blocking terrain, and a height 3, which was just a little boat. That was fun. we thought, let's make it height 3. And then it bore absolutely no relevance to the game whatsoever. And 2 height 1 obstacles, one of which becomes very important as the game goes on, as we will see. So the scenario was ransack. Oh, there's an arrow that I forgot to put into the presentation. Well done me. So ransack is where you have a 3-point token in the center of the board, and then you have 2-point token each and 2 1-point tokens each. And you put them down, you roll off and put them down. So this is how we distributed the tokens. So there's the 3-pointer in the middle, there he is. And those are the 2 2-pointers on the left-hand side. So didn't really mind, but I think I put them down first. And Matt, being quite having a slow melee block in the middle of his army, being the Gigas, kind of wanted to keep them together, understandably. So that's why they're there. And there's all the 1-point tokens. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. Okay, so that's how we laid out. And on to deployment. Now, cunningly, at this point, we will cut to an exciting video. Not very well positioned, I acknowledge, but we took a time-lapse video of the deployment to try and show the how it went across, because I think that's quite interesting. It can really kind of make a bearing on the game. It didn't particularly in this game, because as you can see, we just kind of deployed opposite each other and went, come on then. And also the camera position isn't great because I didn't have a tripod that was kind of big enough. I've bought one now, so next time it will be better. But anyway, let's cut to that video now. Well, I'm sure you will agree that was very exciting. But you can see that because kind of we plonked ourselves opposite, leaving the kind of the nimble and the flyers to the end. So in his case, that was the 2 knuckers, and the coral giant in my case was the arch fiend. And I think he outdropped me slightly, so I think he ended up putting his knucker in last. So we'll see where that comes up. So the Gigas went down here, opposite the 2 and 3-point tokens. And there's his Tidal Swarm, which is a kind of effective piece of... Given that it's 2+ defense, if you can't shoot it off, it's a pretty annoying piece of chaff because it's got ensnare and actually lasts a lot longer than you think for a 2+. There's the Thule and there's the hidden ones. There are the allied boomers at the back. Did I miss? I missed those off the army list. Many apologies. He's got a horde of boomers and an army standard bearer. So there is the Ogre Standard Bearer and the Envoy is next to him. So the Envoy with the banner of the Griffin and teleport, which you didn't use. And there's the Siren and Ector. And over there is a Knucker and the Coral Giant on the left flank. And on the right flank, his other Knucker. So on my side, I've got the 2 Hordes of Molochs. And the lower Abyssals in between them. So kind of to meet his melee block is my melee block. I think his is a little bit better, if I'm honest. Molochs are good, and they've got a bit of regen, but big shield makes Gigas very strong. So behind them I've got my Tortured Souls. And there's the Succubi and the Temptress. So the Temptress is handily positioned to teleport the Ifrit, which is right there, and there's the Well of Souls behind. So you can see the plan. Oh, and there's the Archfiend. So the plan is obviously to try and get around his Knucker on the right with the Archfiend and start doing some nasty flanking. Now, I think I'm used to playing Ratkin, who've got, frankly, a better Archfiend. The Demon Spawn is just better. I think I'd probably like to take more than one of these Archfiends in future. And then, obviously, I'm trying to meet his melee block with my melee block, get some Tortured Souls around the back, and then get the Succubi into something tasty in the middle. And I want to get the Well of Souls over the back like a dragon and start eating things. So that's my plan. Oh, and teleporting the Ifrit. So that's pretty much my plan. I think his plan is pretty obvious, which is to do exactly the same, including shooting me off with the boomers. So I'm going to try and neutralize those boomers as quickly as possible, meet his flanks to deny, and then try and win the fight in the middle over 6 turns. So we'll see how we go. So I won the roll-off and into turn 1. So a very boring turn 1. So the 3 melee blocks moved up and the Ifrit moved into the middle. The two Tortured Souls kind of followed up. So on the left hand side to kind of just block off those two, the Nucker and the Coral Giant, and the Succubi moved up. So I wanted to use the Succubi on the left to kind of be a nasty threat. So while Knuckers are fast, they're kind of rubbish in the front. They've only got 6 attacks, hit on 4s. So what you don't want to do is allow them to get into your rear. So having the Succubi there, they could probably take a charge from that. They could take a charge from the Giant as well. They're just not that strong in melee. And they would start churning through things with the brute strength that they've got. And then the Archfiend moved up as well. So I managed to move him out of the line of sight of the Knucker, which is pretty cool. That was my turn 1. This is where everybody ended up. See, not a very exciting turn 1, but it is what it is. And on to Trident Realm turn 1, which I can tell you, a little bit of a spoiler warning, equally exciting. So everything moves forward, slowly, because they're not very fast, including the boomers at the back there. Then he moved Ector over a little bit, just to get a little glimpse of a line of sight through his troops, because Ector has a really nasty, damaging wind blast. Hidden Ones moved up behind, a little bit further behind the forest, because that forest was nicely positioned to allow him to get out of my line of sight. These two moved on the left flank, as predicted. And then his Knucker moved up to threaten my Archfiend. Not particularly threatening, because I can just fly away. So we'll see how this goes. That's where everybody ended up. And then he... right, so he cast Aura of Heroism onto the Thule. I think just in case I tried to do anything funny. I'm not sure what I could do at that point. Charge them, probably. Charge them at... don't know. Nothing could reach them. Possibly the Well of Souls at that point. And then... as you can see, he wind blasted that unit of Molochs, which I, very ashamedly is on a nasty blank base, just because we didn't really have enough kind of scenic bases. We also didn't have enough Molochs, if we're honest, to fit on. So there's a variety of demonic type of individuals on that base. So many apologies. At least the models are nicely painted, and they are really nicely painted. So on to my turn 2. So what do we do in response? So Tortured Souls moved out. Now this was, I think, a bit of a silly mistake really, and I'm not sure why. I think I just kind of had a bit of one of those moments where your brain just goes boo. And I kind of thought they could see through the woods. I don't know why, because actually if I just put them a little bit further up, touching the woods, I would have still been out of line of sight of the Knucker and the Giant, but I would have been able to charge them next turn, but I didn't. I popped them behind the woods, which is pretty dumb. But there you go, I did it. Moves up the Succubites in that kind of threatening position where they can be ready to charge if needed. And then these guys kind of fanned out, just to kind of meet the threats on each side. Well, the Souls moved up. Right, now the Ifrit moved forward, ready, because I'm within 20 inches now, ready to be teleported behind the lines and do some damage. It's a nice weapon, nice thing you could do with a bit of teleport. I think teleport was really made for characters like the Ifrit and Ector, which is why we've both got it. Then the Torture Souls on the right moved over between the building and the woods to offer some threat to that Knucker. And the Archfiend said, sod you, Knucker, I'm not going to get into a fight with you. I'm just going to jump over here into the flank of these Hidden Ones. Not a charge because I could see them, but ready to inflict some punishment next turn. So this is where we ended up. And I'm ready to cast Teleport. So my plan, because he's got the Siren there, so Siren could disorder flyers. I'm very conscious of that. So I've got a flyer there in kind of a packed position. What I need to do is neutralize that Siren. So my plan is jump the Ifrit over and fireball the living Smeg out of the Siren. So here we go. Here's the teleport, which failed. Yeah, failed. So instead I just cast Weakness onto the Thule, to make them pretty much ineffective next round if they were to charge. So that was, yeah, not very successful. You see the Hidden Ones, the Torture Souls on the left have ended up behind the woods. Can't see anything. Not my finest hour. At least the Torture Souls on the right hand side are positioned in the right place. Oh, and then I tried to, so having failed to fireball the Siren, I thought, alright, I'll lightning bolt you. Also missed in entirety, did no damage. So yeah, what a rubbish turn. So the Trident Realm's turn 2 in response. Right. So that is the what is he called? Envoy moving up. So these guys kind of were just moved up. So the standard bearer, the envoy moved across, and the gigas and the tidal swarm moved up. So they're thinking, so tidal swarm is pretty fragile, but they're ensnaring, and I have to go over an obstacle to hit them. So he's thinking, go on then, you can hit me on 6s if you like. You might do a point of damage. Gigas, they don't care, they're defense 6 anyway. The other gigas just stayed where they were behind the hill, because obviously that hill is height 2 and I can't see them. So they thought, I'll just stay there then, that's fine. These hidden ones turned to face the Archfiend, so that I couldn't flank them. And this Nucker moved up here, out of line of sight of the Torch of Souls. I think out of line of sight, possibly out of line of sight. I don't think it is out of line of sight, actually. I think he just moved across to kind of be irritating, so that he could go jump on things. That's right, so he was within range and within the flank of my other melee unit, so I would have to engage with the Torch of Souls. Otherwise I'm going to take something really nasty next turn, because I've got Pathfinder, so that's where they ended up. And then Aura of Heroism, once again, hit on those Thule, so that gives maximum kind of additional nerve to all the units around them. Wind Blasted from Ector onto my Well of Souls, pushing it back a little bit. And doing a couple of points of damage, I think, as well. And then, irritatingly, he did manage to Siren Call my Archfiend, which means I now can't fly, which means I'm stuck. Not good. As Andy Ransom would say, wah wah. So turn 3, what have I got in response? I've got some combat shots, so it's not just all top-down stuff, by the way. It gets very much more exciting with the images in a little bit, shortly. So, the Well of Souls, despite being blasted back, is within range. Now, I jumped over to the back here. I'm not sure whether because the logical thing to do is to hit that Envoy, right? Because it's an individual, I could hit him, overrun, and hit something else. However, I know next turn the boomers don't shoot. So I'm wondering whether I hit the boomers. So we shall see. I'm not quite sure. So then, left-hand side, the Torch of Souls, I put them where they should have been last turn, which is in the woods, out of line of sight and ready to threaten those two monsters. And then, so the only thing stopping the Giant and the Nucker pummeling into the Molochs on the left flank is the fact that they would get flanked by these, whatever they're called, Succubi. And I'm really frustrated by this. I don't know why. I moved them in behind the lower Abyssals. I think maybe to protect them from boom. I just don't know what I was doing. So what I've done is left my left flank open here. So this is a really silly mistake. Just really, so 2 mistakes in a row on that left flank means that leaves me quite vulnerable. And the Torch of Souls went into the Nucker because they didn't really have a choice. And the Archfiend just moved out of line of sight of the hidden ones and kind of ready to kind of act in support for the Torch of Souls. So a bit of defense. So good in the middle, really bad on the left, and okay on the right is how I feel. This is where everyone ended up, so you can see the Torch of Souls. And then we're into the combat shots. Oh yes, and I finally managed to teleport Maya free. Come on! Now we're talking. Now we're ready to do some damage, sort out that Siren, get some damage going. So I rolled my 16 dice. Here we go. Fireball. What the fuck? I'm not being funny. So 16 dice. There they all are. Hitting on 5s because she's an individual. I mean, because she's stealthy. And I actually hit with 2. I did 2 5s. That's the 2 damage dice I rolled. So I rolled 2 1s. I missed with 14, and I did no damage with the 2 that I hit. So, utterly, I was just sat there going, are you kidding me? Imagine if I was an elf. If I was still an elf rolling this. Jeez Louise. So that's not good. So here we did, I think that's 1 point of damage to the Nucker. And here, so this is my confusion here, right? So, there's the Well of Souls. Nice looking, right? Everything is nice looking in this show. Such a nice set of models. So there's 3 damage there, but I can't remember who that 3 damage belongs to. Whether it belongs to the standard bearer or I think it belongs to the standard bearer, because look at the orientation of my. So I bumped back and then I've knocked across. Right, that makes sense. But there's definitely the marker on the boomers, which suggests that they've been disordered, and I can't imagine why that would be. I'll ask Matt next time I chat to him, but I'm not sure if he can remember either. Anyway, 3 points of damage, and I did manage to kill the envoy, which is incredibly disappointing. I think I just rolled really poorly. A bit of a theme emerging. So this is the left-hand flank. As you can see, I'm ready to kind of bomb in there. And this is where everyone ended up at the end of Abyssal. Turn 3. What is the Trident Realm response? Oh, so that's showing where the combat is. That's my one combat. And there's the combat down there. Alright, Trident Realm. Turn 3. So first of all, the Nucker just turns. So it's not a charge. He basically plonks the Nucker, height 4, in front of my Torch of Souls, as if to say, go on then, charge me, because ensnaring, and it would be a hindered charge. So, go on, hit me with your tiny amount of attacks on the 6s. And I think I didn't really use my Tortured Souls very well, because they'd be really good to plonk in front of other units, to kind of be a buffer to allow me to countercharge, to charge other units once they've been wiped out. But so that's a nice kind of blanking move to stop the Tortured Souls doing anything particularly dangerous next turn. And then because the Succubi have been irritatingly moved out of the way, the Coral Giant charged into my Molochs. Excuse me. So then, with that Moloch threat neutralized, so there's no wall to stop them to hinder them, the Gigas could then move up onto that token, 2-point token, in line with the other Gigas. Giggity. And Boomer's turn. Now, I would have thought they would have turned and shot. But as we'll see in a minute, there's no damage. So, still puzzled by that one. Maybe they missed with 18 attacks. Really? Anyway. The Standing Barrier then moved up behind the Well of Souls to offer some support. Actually, not bad in melee. Not bad, particularly from the back. And then Ector turned around at the hopelessly impotent Efreet and went, right, I'll have you. And attacked him. What did these guys do? So these guys moved back. Why did they do that? Does anybody know? No, they did move back, but I'm not quite sure why. What would be the reason for the... Don't know. Anyway, they did move back. And they're just to try and get out of charge rate. I think just to try and... That's right. So his hidden ones moved over to threaten the rear of the Archfiend and the Torch Souls on the right. And he moved his Knucker, who had 1 point of damage, didn't bother countercharging. Instead, he moved them over, so that, as if to say, right, go on then. If you charge me, you're going to get the hidden ones in the rear, so guaranteeing that there is, a threat from both sides, which is pretty cool. Good move. So there's the Efreet. Took 4 points of damage from Ector, but didn't die. Please note, nice painting. And there is the no points of damage onto my Well of Souls. Who knows what went on there, but there you go. And there's the Coral Giant, who did 3 points of damage into the Molochs, which aren't actually Molochs. I'm not quite sure what those are. The front 3 are Molochs, almost certain. 3 points of damage and nothing else. And that's where those guys ended up on that flank, so that's pretty cool. So that's right, so the... Yes. So he moved the Knucker over, so he's basically out of charge arc, so I can't see him with the Tortured Souls. Can see him with the Archfiend. So that's where those combats were. On to Abyssal, turn 4. So, since I didn't particularly fancy charging a Knucker, hindered into Ensnare, I just kind of popped them over the top, because that puts them in a really nice threatening position. There are a number of units that I can hammer into the flank of there. Now, I kind of think I was kind of using them a bit like Dracons, but they haven't got the punch of Dracons. However, in the flank or the rear, they'll do some work, as my American chums say. So I went back in with the Molochs into the Giant, which is kind of fruitless, but I couldn't really do anything else. And remembering that I really didn't want the Succubi there out of anyone's arc. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. Anyway, I turned them back to be slightly more useful. And I thought, let's push the issue. Because we've been kind of, for 4 turns now, we've been kind of like, go on then, you charge me, I'll charge you, you charge me. So I just moved them up onto the wall to kind of say, right, go on then, if you don't charge me, I'm going to have you next turn. And I did the same with the other Molochs. So in a line, no flanking available, come on, let's have you. And on the right hand, so the Well of Souls at the top went into the Boomers. The Ifrit not particularly fancying. Well, he's not got a lot of options, has he? He's basically a spellcaster. He's got one melee attack, I think on 5s, but he's not going to do anything to Hector. But there is the Siren there, so the ability to turn off her shooting would be quite useful. Sorry, he had a go. He whammed into the Siren with his one attack. And on the left, so Archfiend went into the Nucker, and then the Tortured Souls just turned around effectively to screen, so that the Hidden Ones couldn't get into the rear of the Archfiend. In the hope that we can just get rid of that Nucker. They've not got a great nerve, and the Archfiend is okay, 9 damage, 9 attacks rather on 3, so pretty good. So just kind of acting as a bit of a screen there. So that's how it went. So the Archfiend did an extra 3 points of damage, but got a waiver onto the Nucker, which is a great result. And we did 4 points of damage onto the Boomers. Yeah, it's not a lot, but it stops them shooting me. Not that shooting did anything last turn. Can't quite see how many damage I've got now. How many damage? Let's get a dice. That's a d20. I don't know why I have a box of d20s next to me, don't ask. Where's the 18? And the 14. That's 4 points of damage. So we did 4 points of damage to the Giant. That's not enough to do anything. In fact, I probably did 5 and then the Iron resolved 1. This is where we ended up. So you can see that on the left-hand side here, the Tortured Souls are in a really good place to be threatening. They can threaten the what's he called? The Envoy here, the Boomers here, the edge of the Gigas here, Standard Bearer. There's a lot. They can go into the Giant. There's a lot I can do with those bad boys. There's the combats that we did. So, Trident Realm turn 4. It's looking slightly more positive for me. Oh, if you want to know what that white sheet of paper is, in the middle is a white bar. That's where a wall was. We couldn't quite balance the lower Abyssals on top. So, there you go. So, Giant goes back in, unsurprisingly. The Nucker just turns around. He's sitting on a 2-point token over there. So, yeah, that's not great. And then in response to that that flying threat, he turned these Gigas to face, so then blocking off the sight to the other Gigas. And he moved his Envoy down behind the Swarm. And then he double charged my Well of Souls with the Boomers and the Standard Bearer. Yes, and then the Swarm went into the lower Abyssals to just kind of screen them off. You know, he's not going to do a great deal of damage, but it stops me charging anything more valuable. And then these Thule went into my Molochs on the right. Hindered, but hey. And Hector turned around. Oh yeah, I forgot to say that the Ifrit didn't manage to do anything to the Siren because he's useless. So Hector decided to finish him off. Hidden Ones went into the Tortured Souls, and he desperately tried to run away with here's whatever it's called. What's it called? Nucker there. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to get out of my charge arc with that move because I'm square. So that's what happened. So this was unfortunate for my opponent because he did 7 points of damage to the Well of Souls and didn't manage to waver. Oh, is it a dash something? I can't remember. Let's look it up while I'm talking to you. Hello. Oh man, the screen's gone off. Forget it. Basically, he didn't manage to get anything done to that. So that's very good for me because now the Boomers have a nice juicy flank awaiting. Over here, he did 8 points of damage to my Molochs and wavered them, which would be unfortunate, except that I've got Fury, so to you. 7 points of damage to the Tortured Souls, but didn't get a waiver, which is great because they are not good. As you can see, we've got a little arrow out there to demonstrate that, unfortunately, you have not got out of my charge arc with your Nucker. So, that is where those combats happened. And there was one extra combat, which is where the Giant went back into the Molochs on the left and killed them. Which would be bad, except that he's now opened up a nice charge from the Succubi. So, Abyssal turn 5. We're going to be desperate now. Tortured Souls into the Boomers, which should be good. And I went back in with the Well of Souls just to make sure. because Torch Souls are alright, but they're not that good at melee. Succubi finally got some action, so to speak, into the giant. I wouldn't want action with that. Tentacle monsters. We went in here, and then I did my third real error of the match, which is to whack this Temptress behind the lower Abyssals. Now, what I was trying to do was to create some stagger in his lines. And I'm not sure why I thought this would work. I don't know if I thought the Molochs would kill the Thule, which doesn't seem terribly likely. But by placing... So one of the things you can do, as you know, or may not know, is by putting a character behind your unit, when it comes to resolving a combat, if you have to move backwards and someone behind you, they move backwards. So it would shuffle them backwards. That's all well and good, but if you've got two units in a line, you want to try and keep your line straight, because otherwise you're going to expose a flank. And by popping the Temptress behind the lower Abyssals, if I don't kill that swarm in a single go, he's going to move back and I'm going to have stagger in my line, which means that's going to really open me up next turn. So high risk, I'm not really sure what I was thinking. So on the right here, Torch of Souls went into the Hidden Ones, and the Archfiend tried to finish off the Nucker. So this is quite a nice screenshot. I took this because the Well of Souls is obviously, it's got 3 ghosts coming out of it, you can see. And at this time, there was only 3 models on his Boomer's base. He added a couple more. Minimum model count, very important. But you can see, just by sheer coincidence, the 2 models interact really nicely. There's like 3 ghosts attacking 3 ogres. It's so cool. And there's the Tortured Souls right into the flank. And so after that combat, boom, no more boomers. You can see, I think is that 16 wounds? It's a meaty amount. Anyway, they're dead. Put it that way. And the Tortured Soul, the Well of Souls has regen nearly all of its wounds as well. So I managed to turn around to then offer some nice threat to the back of those units. So the Tortured Souls on the right flank, we bounced from the Hidden Ones, but these bases that the Hidden Ones are on have got damage counters built into them. So unfortunately, that's really cool if you're playing, but for a battle report, it means that I can't quite see how much damage I did. I think it was just not a lot. However, the Archfiend did finish off the Nucker. So that is all looking good now on the right-hand flank. We did 10 points of damage to the Coral Giant, which is enough to kill him, but only if you roll a nerve well, which I didn't. So we bounced, unfortunately, there. And we bounced here as well, so I think I had 7 points of damage, I think. And you can see here what's happened. So I've bounced with the Molochs, and I've bounced with the lower Abyssals. And what I've created is a stagger in my line, which, as you can see, is not going to go well for me. So that's where we were at the end. Onto Trident Realm turn 5, and this is where it gets very painful. So Giant goes back into Succubi, and then he shifts the Tidal Swarm backwards out of the way, because they're all right in melee, but they're not that great, especially not compared to a full unit in the flank. That's going to be 40 attacks, ouch, and Gigas in the front. Yeah. So that's my tar pit that I really needed to stay alive because we're sitting on a 3-point token, and I have, through incompetence, given a flank. It's really, position that. So I'm obviously still not quite up to doing that positioning for that kind of large melee line, making sure you keep your line nice and steady. So boohoo. Gigas then flipped around because obviously we've got a nasty set of opponents heading from the back, and one of the things Trident Realm is really good for, it's got lots of characters. So behind his lines he's got Ector, so Ector moved in front of the Well of Souls, and the Ogre Standard Bearer moved in front of the Tortured Souls. I think actually charged the Tortured Souls. I think they both charged. I think Ector charged the Well of Souls, and the Standard Bearer charged the Tortured Souls. So he just needs to do 1 point of damage to stop me flying over the back and rear charging a bunch of stuff. And then the Hidden Ones went back into those heavily damaged Tortured Souls on the right, and killed them. So there you go, there's a nice blank space where my Tortured Souls were, not surprising. And you can see that he's killed my lower Abyssals. Bad stuff, even though it was hindered. The wall is back, so that's nice. There's that 3-point token. Big hole in my lines, not good. And you can see there he did manage to do 1 point of damage to the Tortured Souls. 3 points of damage to the Well of Souls, so that's 2 flying units now grounded. Again, boohoo. That's in the Trident Realm, turn 5. So, Abyssal turn 6. Desperate measure. So let's take stock here. He's got a Knucker on the 2-point token on the left. I'm currently winning the 2-point token. And I'm not. So there's 2-point token on the left. He's got his Gigas on the 2-point token up there. And next to this boat over here. This is the 3-point token, which I've got a Horde. And he's got a Horde and a Regiment. Over here is a 1-point token. So I've got my Well of Souls and these Tortured Souls. And he's got a Troop and an Ogre Standard Bearer. So that... I think am I a Regiment or a Troop? I think I'm both... Yeah, that's a Regiment. So that's 2. 3, 1, and I think that's a Regiment. Is it Troop or Torch? Anyway, contested pretty much here. If I move the Succubi over, this would be contested, assuming everything survives. He's got this one, and I've got an Archfiend over here. So, what do I do in turn 6? So I shift over the Succubi. I think I charge the Gigas. Do I charge the Gigas? I think I might just move over rather than charging Gigas. There's not a lot of point in charging. The defense 6, and there's a barrier in the way, so I'd be hitting on... Well... I think I do charge them even though it's hindered, because I do need to get something off. I move the Monarchs back just to give the Thule a hindered charge and hopefully claim that token. And then I go in here. So I need to kill that Standard Bearer because he's unit strength, and then I would out unit strength them. There's no chance that the Well of Souls is going to kill Ector, but you know, we need to try. And then I move the Archfiend just out of charge range, so I'm still claiming that token, and I'm threatening the flank. And as you can see, so 0 damage to Ector, 4 damage to the Standard Bearer, and then I double 1 it. Those are my damage dice in the middle. So a disappointing turn 6 after what's been a combination of bad dice and bad play. I can't, unfortunately, again, I can't see the damage, but it wasn't a lot to the Gigas, and certainly not enough to kill them. So I've got my Succubi there. At least they're claiming the token. So I've got a Horde and a Regiment, he's got a Horde and a Regiment. So theoretically, as long as I survive this turn, that 3 points is nullified. This is where we ended up. So he does have 2 on the left, 2 in the middle, that's 4. I've got 1 on the right, 1. 1, so I've got 2 to his 5 in a minute, or possibly 3 to his 5, so not great. Need a turn 7. So the Trident Realm, he obviously, since I bounced here, I could turn to face, so he flanks me with Gigas onto my Tortured Souls. His Standard Bearer just moves across to add unit strength to that token, and Ector goes back into the Well of Souls. Gigas go into the Succubi, and the Thule go into my Monarchs. And then the hidden ones just turn to face the Demon Spawn. Demon Spawn, what's he called? Archfiend. I think he tried to lightning bolt somebody, but didn't succeed last turn. And unsurprisingly, Tortured Souls get splattered. Well of Souls is alright, but 1 unit strength against 3 is not enough for that token. And in fact... Oh, so yeah, you can see the Succubi died. Didn't die. Sorry, the Succubi did not die, but the Monarchs did die. So I've lost my unit strength there. He's got a Horde versus my Regiment. And plus he managed to a huge overrun with his Thule to then claim that token down the bottom as well. So overall he has 3 points from the middle. He has a point there from the Thule that now sit on that token. He's got 4 points from those 2 tokens. And he's got an extra point there. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 of a possible 11, and I have 1. So we roll for turn 7. Was there a turn 7? There was not. So a pretty conclusive victory. Obviously, I made some pretty major and pretty basic errors with my positioning, both with the Tortured Souls at the beginning, with that melee line. And there were some unfortunate dice rolls. But also, I think the use of my Tortured Souls, they're a bit more like correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they're a bit more like gargoyles. You can use them as kind of a buffer, a screen, and that'll be a much more effective use of them if you've got punchy units. I think my succubi, got into the game far too late to be of any use. And the Well of Souls did all right, but just got kind of hampered down in the backfield. I'd like to add, add maybe another Archfiend to the list. I think would be really helpful to a bit more flying threat. And I need to think about how kind of maybe I think lower Abyssals, they're cheap but they're kind of rubbish. And I think maybe like a Legion of Larvae or something in the middle would be really cool. So that's something Matt was talking about. That's far more unmovable. -28, equally crap in a fight, but it doesn't matter. It's just there to hold tokens and to not be moved. So anyway, congratulations to Matt. I think that makes it about 10-2 to him in terms of our total games. But there you go. It's always good. You learn more from a defeat than you do from a victory. Cool. So what's happening now is that this week I'm going to a tournament this Sunday, which is Forge Wardens over in Worcester. So look forward to a battle report or a tournament report coming from that soon. And in the meantime, we'll see you soon on Death by Dragons. Thanks for watching.